All right, I think we're live, guys. So, welcome to another episode of Substance with Style. This time on Thursday. Um, so before we get into the episode, I'm going to explain what's going on. So, obviously, I missed this past Sunday. And going forward, what I'm going to do is change the actual date of Substance with Style to Monday morning, or I say Monday afternoon. Is just for situational reasons. Oh my god, there's an ad. Right away, as soon as the stream starts. Um, but I'm gonna change it to Monday mornings and Monday afternoons, probably around 12, and that's gonna be better where I can actually post it on time instead of just doing it randomly throughout the week. But regardless, I owe you guys an episode, so you guys are getting an episode. So today we're gonna be doing a song from which you can see from Friendship is Magic. So it's called Blank Flanks Forever. And you know what? I'm not even going to explain it any further. I want you guys to just watch this and then I'll go into it. Okay?
I just said it wasn't!
Cutie marks are great, they say. Yeah, right. They make you special in your way. But that special mark that's just for you will erase the stuff you like to do.
So, no more painting? No more haiku? Rumble, stop! That's just not true!
So you're good at charming snakes. Too bad. Or you bake delicious cakes. Oh well. Maybe there are lots of things that you like to do. Well, your options get pretty stark once you got that cutie mark. Blank flanks are better. No pony to tell you who you have to be. Blank flanks are better. Keep your spirit soaring free. So listen up, cause I ain't lying. Don't need no mark, so why keep trying? If you like just being you, then keeping that blank is a thing to do.
Cutie marks don't limit you! They only show you what you can do!
Blank flanks.
But what if you can't do a thing?
Blank flanks.
These cutie marks are frustrating.
You say there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, exactly.
A blank is the way for you. It's no work to just be who you are. No hunt to be some cutie star. You're perfect just being you. Don't bother with what you cannot do. Blank flanks are better. No pony to tell you who you have to be. Blank flanks are better. Keep your spirit soaring free. So listen up, cause I ain't lying. You ain't no luck, so I keep trying. If you like just being you, then keeping that blank is the thing to do.
Blank flanks forever.
That's it, blank flanks. Be proud of who you are. You don't need some phony pony telling you you're just one thing. Blank flanks forever. Blank flanks.
All right. So please, YouTube, do not copyright. You guys are wondering where episode 5 was, where I did losing it. YouTube took it down for copyright on most countries, so that's unfortunate. Wasn't the best episode, so not that worried about it. But why am I playing a song from a children's show right now? And there's going to be future episodes with children's songs in it. And the reason why is because there is insights in this. So, for those of you who clicked on this and already clicked off because you're like, okay, this is stupid, you know, I'm so happy. And the reason why is not everyone can get the insights that in these how to put this, get the insights that can be difficult to get and aren't so clearly understood or clearly seen. And this song, I feel like, has some really good insights, and I'll basically go into how this can actually apply to your life or something more practical other than just colorful ponies. So, just to give you guys a little context of what's going on here, if you've never seen the show or have no idea what the heck a blank flank is, so in the context of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic, a blank flank is a pony that doesn't have a cutie mark, which is, give me a second, give me an example. Here we go. Like these ones, they have this little tattoo thing on their butts. That's a cutie mark, which is supposed to represent their destiny or what they're good at. It's not entirely clear all the time, but it's pretty much what they're meant to do. And I think from a societal aspect, I think it's a very cool concept. What they go over in the show, that every person or every pony has a role in their society, that they have their purpose in their life, which I think for a children's show, I think that's a great idea because that's something I talk about a lot on my channel, is about purpose and what you meant to do in your life, which I'm going to go into, which isn't entirely something you should be overly concerned about. And in this episode, I'm going to explain why. But regardless, a pony that doesn't have a blank flank, which is usually a child or a filly, like this one right here, has yet to figure out their destiny or their purpose. And throughout the show, it's often used as a plot point of ponies not having a cutie mark as something that's either shameful or embarrassing or something that's they really want it but they can't get it. And in fact, that these characters in particular, before they got their cutie marks, they were bullied and made fun of for not having them, and that's what their characters are based off, their cutie marks. That's what most of their plots are off of. But what's interesting is in this later season when they came out with the song is that they totally flipped the script. That something that, let me get all the characters. Something that's was usually something to be ashamed of or embarrassed by is now in this episode is totally flipped, where it's actually a good thing. And this is a little tangent I'm going on right now, not what I really want to bring up why I'm talking about this episode. But often it's not like, say, in real life where people are made fun of for, say, having a funny voice or having some physical feature or liking a certain interest or being bad at something, that often what the heck? Keep getting, this is not a good video because it keeps having ads. Something they're often made fun of for. But I'm going to use the example, say, for years, like liking nerd culture, like video games or comic books or superheroes and Star Wars. For years, kids would be made fun of for liking that kind of nerdy things. Because it was not socially acceptable. It was seen as something that you're part of the out group, that you're a social outcast if you like those kind of media. But over the past decade, I'd say past 2 decades, things have changed where that's gone mainstream now with all the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where now, just gaming becoming a lot more popular, where that's the cool stuff now. And it's become part of the mainstream culture. So now that's cool if you like it. Growing up, like, I loved Pokemon throughout my whole life, but there was times like throughout school where it wasn't cool. Now that I'm older, it's funny enough got cool again. So it's not everything is set in stone. Like, why are these certain interests or certain features are socially acceptable and others aren't? And there's various reasons why, but you can use this to your advantage. So I'm going to use the context of the show here, where characters who don't have a cutie mark are made fun of and called a blank flank. That's something to be shameful of, that you haven't figured something out of what your purpose in your life, what you're good at, what you're useful. But this character Rubble here in the episode, he doesn't have one, and he's just so confident and so brash and and is a natural leader that he completely flips a script very quickly where just as he says like no that being a blank flank is good, he gets everyone else on his side pretty much. That okay, like that this is actually good that you don't need to figure out your destiny, like you just be what you want. And so quickly he just makes it cool. And if you want to be a leader in your life and certain like um events, this is not a bad strategy to go with. That if you are different from a group of people, uh, just having that confidence and being proud of whatever that feature is, that will naturally draw other people to you. Not just other people who share that with you, but other people who are different from you. So, for example, like if I enter a social circle and I talk about and they're talking about how Star Wars is stupid, it's like it's for children, or the new movies are so bad, or whatever. And then I come in and say, you know what, I love Star Wars. I think it's great, and for A, B, and C. Just that natural confidence. One, the people who are making fun of it, they can naturally fall into my frame and actually start agreeing with me or start downplaying what they're saying. Very common. Like, I remember I was talking with someone about when the PS5 was coming out, and I was saying like um, how stupid it is. That it's like, oh, why are people buying this PS5? Like, it doesn't have any games and it's not even that good. And it's going on about that. And the other guy tuned in and said, oh, I bought it. And I like it. And I remember, so this is the first time I ever thought about this kind of concept. Or I naturally just started falling into his frame and I started backpedaling just naturally because I kind of realized I was going over my bounds, that I was over exaggerating. Um, and I started kind of backtracking. And I've seen that happen a lot with other people. That as soon as they make a statement and you confront them on it, they don't want to avoid that confrontation, so they'll start backpedaling or start agreeing with you. Um, and a lot of people too, by the bystanders, they don't really feel strongly either way. They just want to be on the right side, so that they'll just agree with you. And here's a perfect example where if you're that natural leader and you just stay confident in what you believe in and what you are, people will just start following you. And then you can start the trend. That you are the outsider and you're basically building your own hierarchy now. That you decide, I'm not gonna fall into these people's frame. I'm gonna make my own frame and then be in charge when everyone else falls to my frame. Um, so that's just one tangent I wanted to talk about this episode, which I really liked. But the reason why I'm talking about this, and I'm going to go over the song now, is the idea of purpose in your life. Where, from a societal standpoint, I love the idea of, say, the cutie mark of just finding your destiny, having that in a children's show, which very few do talk about. Very few children's show talk about this. So I love that concept. But from the terms of my channel, where I'm all about personalized solutions in your best interest, the idea of purpose and your destiny in your life, it's kind of outdated. Now, this is a very complex topic, which I will talk about later on in a more formalized video. There's a lot to go over, but just to simplify things, the idea of purpose now in this, jeez, Miss God, it's these mountains are not playing with me well. Um, the idea of purpose is outdated. And the reason why is because we live in an era of free play where the constraints and the chains of social expectations and um, societal duties have been released. We live in an age of luxury where we don't need each other anymore. And now that religion and nationalism, that's all fallen to the wayside, you really don't need there's not a necessity for purpose anymore. Now, you can still go through the traditional routes of finding purpose, but we now have a new option, which in this new era of free play, which is the blank blank, which this song, I got to find a better name for it, but it's pretty much choosing your own destiny, making your own path. And there's a way to go about it, but this song kind of encompasses why it is. But I'm just gonna play it, and I'm just gonna stop when.
I just said it wasn't!
Cutie marks are great, they say. Yeah, right. They make you special in your way. But that special mark that's just for you will erase the stuff you like to do.
Okay, so just a heads up if for those of you who watch the show. In the logic of the show, he's actually wrong, where his argument is that you can't do anything else as soon as you find your one purpose, which is why he's the antagonist in this episode. But for our sake, we're just going to take him at his word, right? And he is right about like what he just talked about, that a cutie marker, your purpose in your life makes you special. Like that in this society, this is what I'm good at. This is what I do. This is how I contribute, and that makes you special. Makes you different from everyone else. That say I am I don't know. I'm a teacher, and as a teacher, I basically help raise up and educate the future generations. So that separates me from everyone else, except for other teachers, obviously. But this is kind of my niche in the community, this society, that what I do is actually helping humanity move forward, or on a smaller sense, the nation or my community or other people move forward. So you're useful to others. So that's why purpose is so important to people, where it's the reciprocity of need, where people feel the need to be needed by others. That we don't just want to be superfluous, which means that, oh, it's like, it's good to have, but you're not necessary. Like, people hate feeling that. It's a terrible feeling. It's like, oh, if I died, like, no one would care, or not much would change. You know, that's how people get incredibly lonely. Why loneliness hurts so much is because, not because we're just individually, like, physically alone. It's because no one cares, or you don't matter. That's what eats at people. And the reason why we have that anxiety or that depression is because how we evolved that in these tribes, that we wanted to feel useful. Because the more useful we have, the more secure we would be in our place in the tribe. That if I go out and hunt food, right, that other people will find me useful and want to keep me around because I'm actually like contributing. Now, I'm putting into the pot, so I'm allowed to take out of the pot. But anytime we're not feeling useful or other people don't care, we just feel a lot less secure, that we'll be either thrown out of the tribe or just be left and not given resources. So that's just an instinctual fear we have. And we want to feel useful to our families, to our friends, to our country, and so on. So we feel like we're actually contributing in a way that making sacrifices, and like, for example, the hunting, like sacrificing my time, my safety, and the resource I'm gaining from the hunting, that sacrifice gives us meaning. You cannot have purpose without sacrifice. And I'm going to go into that later, but that is a prerequisite. But it makes us feel special, having that one thing. And it's funny enough, the reason why nowadays people are so obsessed with interest and hobbies now, and they start identifying so strong with it, because that's what makes them feel special. They can't find anything that, or don't want to find anything that is actually like useful or contributing. So they try to become these, they look in other means, funner means of doing so. But that's the appeal of purpose, that it makes you feel special.
So, no more painting? No more haiku? Rumble, stop! It's just not true!
So you're good at charming snakes. Too bad. Or you bake delicious cakes. Oh well. Maybe there are lots of things that you like to do. Well, your options get pretty stark once you got that cutie mark.
So again, this is kind of wrong here. That like once you find your purpose, you can't do anything else. Which, yeah, like that's true. Like that's not true, but in a way, it is. If you think about it, it requires sacrifice. Every time you do something, you sacrifice. So, for example, if I want to be a father and I start a family, right? I get married and I have children. I will sacrifice a lot for that purpose, which is the primary purpose in your life as a human is to reproduce. So that's like built into our DNA to try to have a family, to have children. But that requires sacrifice. Just giving you resources, your time, energy, like your money, everything, like towards that family. And anyone who anyone who has a family can tell you that's absolutely true. So it does limit what else you can do. So a lot of people, when they start a family, they kind of have to accept that, okay, I have to give up a lot of things. This other parts, my potential, I'm giving up part of my potential to raise this family. Either that could be getting rich or spending your time on other interests or traveling or, dating other people. That's all things you have to sacrifice, potentially. So that's something that is true, that once you do find your purpose, or you do give something that find something that gives you purpose, you do have to sacrifice your opportunity cost. When you're young, you have tons of it, but as you get older, you get less and less. So it's not as cost effective. It's not as harmful, but something to keep in mind. But let's go on.
Blank flanks are better. No pony to tell you who you have to be. Blank flanks are better. Keep your spirit soaring free. So listen up, cause I ain't lying. Don't need no mark, so why keep trying? If you like just being you, then keeping that blank blank is a thing to do.
So blank flanks are better. No pony can tell you what you have to be. Blank flanks are better. Keep your spirit flying free. So, like I said, the idea of purpose is the benefit not for you, but society. That special feeling you get that you're contributing, that's all indirect. That's not the reason for purpose. It's just something that's ingrained in us to make us feel good, so we have a better chance of survival. We won't be kicked out of the tribe. It's really the idea of purpose is in the benefit of your society or your tribe, that everyone's contributing in their own unique way and is actually putting into the pot. However, like I said earlier, we live in the era of free play, as I call it. And that means that pretty much in the year 2023 in the Western societies, you can do whatever you want. True, you can do whatever you want. This is the first time in, I don't know, in the world history that you can do this. I don't know, maybe in Rome they had a time like this, but now we live in luxury where not only are we surviving, where everyone has easy access to food, water, shelter, other people, we have luxuries now. We have heat, we have delicious food, we can go anywhere we want on the planet. We have entertainment for days. You can contact people just to pick up your phone. You can call someone across the world. We live luxuries like warm water. Luxuries that King Louis of France, King Louis XVI, couldn't even imagine. Even though he's the most powerful and luxurious person in the world in the 18th century, he didn't have running water. He didn't have electricity. It's amazing now if you think about it, how good we have it. Compare yourself to like a medieval peasant who, was dying of like dysentery and had to work like 16 hours a day. It was awful. But now we live in such we live in such plentifulness that our society doesn't need us. If I don't do anything, instead, say I don't go to work, I don't do anything, I don't make these videos, I just sit and lie in my bed all day and just hang out and just enjoy and just be a leech. I'm not going to really get a negatively impact society by myself alone. It can easily sustain me. It can sustain millions of people. That's why people talk about universal basic income, where we can have that because we live in such luxury. You know, in the past, like most people had to work in the food industry, just producing agriculture and food. But now we got so efficient at it that literally only takes a handful of people to supply a whole region. It's crazy. And that's how society's really, civilization kind of sprung up, that we made these deals like, okay, I'll take care of the food for you if you start building a house, build houses or do some other useful activity. So we started diversifying our society of what we do as we share. And now we got to the point of era of free play, where not only do we have everything, there's no more social constraints that were put in place to make sure everyone was doing something. Biggest one is religion. Either if it's Christianity or Islam or Judaism or Hinduism, those were all. Before, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but really, religion's function is really as an it's an ethno-nationalist. It's basically ethno-nationalist culture, which that's kind of a $10 word, so I'll break it down. Religion's role is pretty much ensuring the society's success across this on the social level, that everyone's following the rules. Pretty much, it's everyone's following the rules and feeling like that they have a purpose in their life. I don't want to go too deep down that path. That's for another video. But now we get to the point where we're age of post religion, where no longer is the church forcing you to live a certain way of being getting married at a young age, or having a family, or having these social customs that you're not allowed to act a certain way in public. And that's not just only religion, but also the government as a whole too. That we have freedom of speech. We, for the most part, there's other things that we're no longer so much restricted about what we can do. Also too, just same thing with the government about service, where in the past that you're kind of forced or pressured into certain roles, like say being drafted into the military, or just having a position in society to actually make a decent income, that where you're kind of reliant on, because if you didn't, then you would die. Now there's so many different ways to get money that it's crazy. Just to simplify it, though, we live in an era of free play where no longer do you have to follow the rules. To be honest, post morality. And the bad part is we don't really have purpose. That's why you have so many young people just don't have any purpose in their life, because society doesn't have a purpose for them. We already have everything. So there's two ways around it, where one, you can fall in those traditional roles, which is like of what purpose was, which is one, having a family, two, mastering a craft where you are just dedicating your life to getting so good at a craft that you're actually helping your society with. Like, say I'm going to become an expert carpenter, right? So you're building all the houses in your whatever community, and you feel like you're contributing. Or three, service, where you're either joining the military to fight for your country, or a church where you're serving God. So you can still go one of those paths now, which a lot of people still do, more so the family side. and that will give you purpose. Even though in the meta side of things, it's you're no longer be forced to do that. Those are still extremely valid paths, which I think most people should go down. Um, However, the other way, which this song talks about, is the being a blank flank, where you don't. Society can't tell you what you have to be, like Rubble says. No one can tell you what you have to be. Um, and it is true freedom. And that sounds like the more funner or exciting path. However, it's a more dangerous path as well. And I'll explain why. Let me play the song a little bit more, and I'll go into it.
Cutie marks don't limit you. They only show you what you can do.
Blank, blank. But what if you can't do a thing? Blank, blank. These cutie marks are frustrating.
You say there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, exactly.
A blank flank is the way for you. It's no work to just be who you are. No hunt to be some cutie star. You're perfect just being you. Don't bother with what you cannot do. Blank, blank, so
Over the course again. Not much there, but what I wanted to say before. Hold on. Let me get
better. No pony to tell you who you.
cool. Oh. Just don't like a free frame. But pretty much, it's the idea that they're going into is the idea of belonging. The longing for belonging, right? That most people want to feel like they have a purpose, that they belong, and have a role. But we live in the age now of, what I said, era of free play, where you don't need to do that. If you don't want to, you can be free and make your own purpose, right? That you don't need to go down one of those paths. Now, most people, when they hear me say this, probably you listening, you're like, oh, yes, I'm going to do that. Same thing when people talk about like entrepreneurship, or they talk about like, I'm going to be my own boss, which most people love the idea of, but in execution, terrible. Because they're not calculating the risk and the lack of security in that, and the hard work. So there is hardships with this path where most people go wrong in this is they just fall into hedonism, which hedonism means is just pursuit of pleasure. It's like, okay, we live in an era of free play. No one can tell me what to do. And they just go into just pursuing pleasure. Let me see if anyone's watching. No one's watching. But they're just falling into pleasure, where it's like, I just want to feel good all the time. And they just go fall into these hobbies, or either spending all their time on the internet, or playing video games, or just eating junk food, and just going other frivolous, degenerate activities I'm not going to go into. Like a NEAT, right? And the reason why like this is so bad is because we still have a need for a purpose, even though you're not going to fall into society's purpose. You still feel bad that you're kind of wasting your life, and it's how people regret their life. It's like, what did I spend my 78 years of life? What did I do with it? And they're like, well, I didn't do anything at all. I just lived for myself, which it's fun for a while, but and you got to have you need to have that, right? It's the arguments between the Stoics and the Epicureans, where, right, the Stoics are right where you need to have a pursuit of something higher than yourself, and that's the thing, something higher than yourself. Your purpose has to be. However, I also agree with the Epicureans where life should be enjoyed too. It's not all about pain and suffering. So you need to have a good balance, and most people go way too far on the Epicurean side of having fun. So you just got to have that balance between actually feeling like you're useful and also kind of just doing what you want. So yeah, absolutely. Just figure out what your goals are. Like, what do we want to achieve? Like, where do you want to go to? What do I want to learn about the world? What fun things do I want to do? But you also need to create a purpose for yourself that society doesn't need me anymore. In some cases, society just hates me. Um, and really, like, I have myself to live for. And if I don't want to have a family, if if that's not for me and I live for my children, this is why it gives you purpose. There's other ways to go down. I said the mastery of a craft, which you don't have to do it for your society, but just trying to become the best at something, right? It's mastering your craft or the pursuit of high art, and it always has to be greater than yourself. Like think of a musician. Oh, whatever. I can't skip it. Think of like a musician where they. I'm going to use Rush because I love Rush, right? They made awesome music, but um, they didn't just make it for themselves. They were trying to spread a message to everyone, and they either directly or indirectly kind of contributing to society by spreading these awesome messages. So that's something you should think of, like my craft, whatever it is. Like for me right now, it's either animation or content creation, specifically 3D animation. All my art I make, I'm like, this has to be bigger than me. Like, what am I saying? What is my message? And that's what Rafaven's about. What the messages I'm telling you. That's what's important. That gives me purpose. It's not me just talking about My Little Pony episode, just like, oh, look how cool these ponies are, and I just talk about the episode. I'm barely even talking about the content. I'm just talking about the using it as a vehicle to talk about a message. That's what's important. That's what I'm getting at. It has to be bigger than yourself. And I think this is bigger than me. This channel's bigger than me. All great art surpass its artist in greatness. So that's one path, and the other is a service where listen, the military or a church will definitely give you purpose, but I feel like nowadays it is outdated where you're still just serving another institution that does not have your best interest in mind. No matter how great the military will make you feel or a religious organization will make you feel, and it certainly will, and you'll get indirect benefits out of it, it's at the end it's not serving you. And if you're fine with that, go ahead, but be aware of that. Be conscious of that. So, of course, the other path I'm talking about is how do you get that higher purpose, something higher than yourself outside of those structures? And that's kind of forging your own path. I'll talk about myself right now. I feel like the purpose of my life, I have two. And one, to be the best teacher of all time, and to be the best student of all time. And that means to teach others and be taught myself. That's my goal. I want to learn as much as I can about the world, not want to enjoy it, but also learn as much as I can about the world and spread that to other people. That's what I feel like I'm good at and what I'm passionate about, what I love doing. I love doing these videos. I love talking to other people about philosophy or other messages or just other information. I love doing that. Just the marketplace of ideas. Like if I could be in a painting and live there for the rest of my life, it would be the School of Athens. I love that. So that's what gives me meaning. And that took me a while to figure out. And I love to use art as a vehicle for that. Animation, I feel like, is my forte, which I feel like I'm doing here. Not just talking about it, which I love just talking on camera, but animating. So it can be very difficult to find out what you want. And I think the best way to go about it is figuring out what you're good at and also what do you love? I've always loved cartoons. I knew from when I was very young I wanted to make a TV show. I had like these action figures. I had Pokemon figures and Club Penguin figures that I would use. And every time I played with them, even my stuffed animals, like every time I played with them, each one would have is a character with a distinct personality that's the same every time, with a name and personality traits and a backstory. And I just role played with them. I just played. They were like in a TV show. Like this is the episode today. And I always knew I wanted to make a TV show. I love telling stories. Um, I think though how I've really honed in on my purpose though is using those that as a medium to share messages, forgotten messages that aren't being told nowadays. The secret truths that are being obscured or forgotten or shamed. I love that. I love the forbidden knowledge. So I want to spread that to younger people or just all people. That's what I love doing. But that's how I got my purpose. I found it out, and that's for me. That's in my best interest. It's not. It's indirectly serving society, but it's personally for me, right? As a blank, I could have been a doctor, I could have been a lawyer, I could have been a construction worker that could contributed. So I could have been all this, but me, if I'm a blank, I can choose what I want, and that's what I chose, not just given to me by society. In a way, that's kind of like a communist utopia where you just gotta, you're just a servant to the overall nation. But instead, you're in the West, you are in the era of free play. Start playing, right? Find something you enjoy that one will sustain you. That's a big thing. It will make you money and you enjoy it. If you got that, that's your purpose. And it can take a while to figure it out because, for me, you could ask me like a year or two ago and I would have no idea. I would probably say something else that's not this, but I was able to figure it out. So I'm not going to shame anyone not for going down that traditional path, which I think is a great path. Personally, me, I would like to have a family later on in my life. If I don't, that's okay. And I'm not saying like that as someone who's post the wall and post fertility and trying to cope. No, no, no. Like I would like to have it, but if my other goals get in the way, absolutely fine. I would rather me make my own TV show over having children. I know that for a fact. I would rather have a TV show and no children than have children and no TV show. When I say TV show, I just mean like a series, not actually on television. But that can take a while for you to figure out. So I think that's the rest of the song, really. So if you're really trying to figure out like what your purpose is, it's going to be a while, but consider these two paths. You can either belong to your society and you can belong and kind of just follow those traditional roles, and that will make you feel secure, but you'll never maximize your potential. Or you can take the other route and utilizing the era of free play and try to find your own purpose, but at the cost of you not feeling like you belong. And you're kind of this wild card loner in a way. That you're just forging your own path. It can be hard, and there's a high chance of failure. That you might try to find something, and there's a high chance you might not get it. And you try to go back to the old path, and it might be too late. But again, make sure your purpose, if you try to figure out, it can't just be pleasure. It can't be my goal is just to travel, right? Because then it's a recipe for disaster. You'll enjoy it, but in the long term, no, that's not purpose. Has to be something that you are something greater than yourself. What that is, that's up to you to figure out. I'm not great enough of a man to decipher that for everyone. I wish I could have a magic wand and say, "Oh, this is what it is. This is what your cutie mark is." But it would be wrong of me to decide your passion in your life. Because again, it's yours, in your control, and that's only for you to decide. It'll be wrong for someone else to do so. All right, so thank you guys for watching. Again, Substance with Style will be Monday afternoon at 12 p.m., 12 p.m. noon. That's when the new time is. I'm going to be doing these live streams. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you guys later.